Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really digging into the latest NFL offseason buzz, specifically what ESPN's Jeremy Fowler is reporting.
Yeah, lots of moving parts. Player moves, team strategies, contracts.
Exactly. We've got Fowler's insights on quarterback situations, trade rumors, all that stuff.
And our plan is to kind of piece it all together, right? Go beyond just the headlines.
For sure.
Yeah.
Try and understand the why behind these potential moves and what it means for the teams.
Look at the strategies, the potential domino effects across the league. That's what we're diving into.
Okay, let's get into it. And, well, where else do we start? But Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers connection.
Always the headline grabber.
Right. Apparently, his decision timeline got a little sidetracked by the Kentucky Derby. He had commitments.
You know, you got to respect the priorities, I guess. But yeah, the key thing Fowler's reporting is that if he does play,
It looks like Pittsburgh.
it leans heavily that way, yeah. And it makes sense. I mean, the Steelers still haven't really settled their starting QB spot.
Fowler also mentioned, didn't he, that the Steelers are pretty optimistic.
He did. There's a sense of optimism there, which suggests, maybe there have been some real talks, more than just kicking the tires. But, and this is the big but, it's Aaron Rodgers' first time ever hitting free agency in, 20 years?
Yeah, decades.
So it's totally new ground for him. Makes it really unpredictable.
Yeah, absolutely. And, okay, if Rodgers ends up in Pittsburgh, that changes things immediately for guys already there, like George Pickens.
Right. Fowler reported his name was floating around in trade talks.
Before the draft, right, and maybe the deadline, too. Cowboys were interested.
Yeah, exactly. But Fowler says those talks seem to have cooled off quite a bit now.
Which makes sense if you're trying to get Rodgers.
Totally. Why trade away a weapon like Pickens? Especially if, like Fowler reports, Pickens wants to stay, feels that loyalty to Mike Tomlin.
Contract year for him, too, isn't it?
It is. So, yeah, the Steelers need weapons for whoever is playing quarterback, maybe especially if it's Rodgers. Trading Pickens wouldn't really fit that plan. You want to keep that receiver room looking good.
Makes sense. Okay, staying in that division, the AFC North. Let's look at Cincinnati. Trey Hendrickson.
The contract situation.
Yeah. They drafted a defensive end, Stuart, but Fowler says they still want to keep Hendrickson. Which, I mean, why wouldn't you? The guy gets sacks.
Tons of sacks. But yeah, there's a stalemate on the contract extension.
So what's the holdup? Just post-draft positioning?
Seems like it. Fowler mentioned both sides are kind of waiting, maybe reassessing after the draft dust settles. The Bengals want a long-term deal done, and Hendrickson deserves it.
Is there much trade talk around him then?
Not really, according to Fowler. The feeling is that the main goal is getting that contract sorted out. They expect him to stay if they can agree on terms.
Gotcha. All right, let's switch conferences. Jaylen Ramsey.
Interesting one. The Dolphins were apparently poking around about a trade before the draft.
Ramsey wants to be on a contender, right? Makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. But the sticking point seems to be the money. That $24 million guarantee.
Oof. Yeah. That's significant.
It is. And Fowler's report suggests Miami isn't super keen on picking up a huge chunk of that. So that makes the trade pretty difficult right now.
So maybe not Miami then. Any other possibilities?
Well, Fowler did mention the Rams. A potential return to L.A.
Oh, interesting. Mutual interest there.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
Maybe the Rams, think they're closer to contending again and see him as that missing piece. Might be more willing to figure out the money if that's the case.
Right.
That guarantee, that's real cash they'd owe him.
Right. Okay, let's talk Cowboys. Always plenty happening there. Micah Parsons' contract.
The big one looming.
Fowler says they plan to sign him. They've budgeted for it. That sounds positive for Dallas fans.
Yeah, the intention is there, and the money's supposedly earmarked. But, and this is key, the actual negotiations haven't really, ramped up yet.
Is that normal for Dallas, taking their time?
It seems to be their style. Fowler pointed out it was similar with Dak Prescott, with CeeDee Lamb. They don't rush these mega deals.
What kind of money are we talking for Parsons? Ballpark.
The market expectation Fowler mentioned is huge, like $35, maybe even $40 million a year, top of the market stuff.
Wow. Okay. And still on the Cowboys. They didn't draft a receiver, did they?
Nope. Big surprise to some, so they definitely still need help there.
Which brings us back to Amari Cooper.
You guessed it. Fowler reports there's mutual interest in a reunion.
But money again, right? Cooper's made a lot over his career, and Dallas isn't exactly throwing cash around this offseason.
Exactly the issue.
Right.
Cooper's earned, nearly $140 million. He'll have expectations. Dallas wants value. That's the potential clash.
Could it still happen, though?
Fowler mentioned a source thinks it could be good for both sides. Maybe some kind of creative contract,
Wow.
incentives, who knows. But the interest seems real.
Okay, let's swing back to quarterbacks. The Cleveland Browns. That room looks full.
Yeah, very crowded. You've got Deshaun Watson coming off injury, then Kenny Pickett, who they traded for, Dylan Gabriel, who they drafted, Shedeur Sanders, too.
And Fowler says the coach, Kevin Stefanski, actually likes keeping 4 QBs.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
But Fowler also made a smart point. Teams always look at their roster as potential trade assets.
Ah, so maybe they showcase one.
Could be. They gave up draft capital for Pickett, Gabriel, and Sanders. If one looks good in preseason or another team gets desperate due to injury, maybe they recoup some value down the road.
Any particular buzz on the rookies?
Fowler did note the Browns are apparently really high on Dylan Gabriel. Despite him falling a bit in the draft, maybe because of size concerns, they seem to see real potential there. Could make him a trade chip eventually.
Interesting. Let's stay with rookie QBs, but head to Seattle. Jaylen Milroe, 3rd-round pick. What's the plan there?
This sounds pretty cool, actually. Fowler expects them to create specific packages for him, use that dual threat ability, his running.
Like a Taysom Hill kind of role.
Sort of, yeah. Maybe without all the tight end stuff, but using him as a runner in certain situations.
But they still want him to develop as a passer long term.
Oh, absolutely. That's the main goal, Fowler says, developing him as a pure quarterback. But that could take, a year or two.
So in the meantime, he's maybe QB3, behind Darnold and Locke.
That seems likely. Lets him learn behind the scenes, develop his passing, but still get his feet wet in games with those special packages. Smart way to bring him along, maybe?
Yeah, sounds like a plan. Okay, circling all the way back to the Cowboys again. Just to hammer this home, the receiver need is still there.
Definitely. Fowler mentioned they were keen on T.J. McMillan before Carolina snagged him.
So the need wasn't addressed in the draft.
Nope. Which, again, keeps that Amari Cooper door open, at least in theory.
But it all comes down to the dollars and cents.
Pretty much. Like we said, Dallas seems hesitant to spend big right now. Cooper's earned a lot. Fowler really emphasized that financial hurdle. If it happens, it probably needs some kind of creative contract solution. It just highlights that constant balancing act teams face.
Right. Okay, let's try and wrap our heads around all this. We've bounced around quite a bit.
We have, from Rodgers potentially impacting the Steelers' whole strategy,
To Hendrickson's contract talks in Cincy, Ramsey trade possibilities, the money involved there.
the Cowboys needing receivers, but also needing to pay Parsons.
The QB juggling act in Cleveland, Seattle's plan for Milroe. It's a lot.
It really shows how one move, or even just the potential for a move, can ripple out, doesn't it? Everything's connected. Rodgers' decision affects Pickens. Draft picks affect veteran contracts. Cap space limits trade options.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's something to chew on then, thinking about all this. We keep hearing about the money, right? Ramsey's guarantee, Cooper's potential salary, Parsons' huge upcoming deal.
The financials are always front and center.
So how much is that stuff like, team chemistry, existing relationships? How much is that really worth in today's NFL compared to just the hard numbers on the spreadsheet?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or maybe the $40 million question in Parsons' case.
Yeah. Are teams finding that balance? Or is it just becoming more and more about the bottom line, the salary cap math, and maybe less about that sort of intangible stuff?
It feels like it's leaning more towards the cap, but maybe that's just the nature of the reporting we focus on.
Yeah.
Still, it's definitely something to think about. Where does sentiment fit in a salary-capped league?
Definitely food for thought. Well, thanks for diving deep with us on all this off-season chatter.